There's a specific kind of pain that visits you at 3 in the morning, when everyone else is asleep, when the distractions are gone, and you're left with this question: who am I when no one is watching? And the silence answers back with nothing. That emptiness, that's not depression. That's your soul realizing it's been living someone else's life. Kierkegaard called this despair. But here's what no one tells you. This despair means you're closer to yourself than you've ever been. Right now, feeling lost, feeling like you're falling apart. This is not the end. This is the moment right before you become real. And it will hurt more than you think. Soren Kierkegaard understood something most philosophers refuse to touch. He understood that the deepest suffering isn't physical. It's the suffering of being divided against yourself. He called it despair. But not the kind of despair you cry about. The kind you hide. The kind you carry in silence while smiling at strangers. The despair of not wanting to be yourself. Or worse, the despair of not knowing who you are at all. Kierkegaard said we live in layers of self-deception. We build masks so carefully that we forget we're wearing them. And the tragedy is this: the world rewards the mask. Your family loves the mask. Your friends need the mask. So you keep wearing it, until one day something breaks, and you feel it. That terrible, quiet knowing. You are not living your life. You are performing it. This moment, this feeling of being lost, is not a mistake. It's not a breakdown. Kierkegaard would tell you it's the only honest moment you've had in years. You feel lost because you're waking up. And waking up is violent. It tears apart everything you thought was solid. The roles you played, the dreams you borrowed, the person you pretended to be because it was easier than being no one at all. You feel lost because the map you've been following was never yours. Someone else drew it. Your parents maybe. Society. The voices in your head that sound like you but aren't. And now you're standing in the middle of your own life and nothing looks familiar. That's not loss. That's freedom knocking. And freedom is terrifying. Kierkegaard said freedom is the dizziness of possibility. Imagine standing at the edge of a cliff. You could jump. You could step back. You could stay frozen. All of it is possible. That openness, that infinite maybe, it makes you dizzy. Makes you sick. Because with freedom comes responsibility. You can no longer blame your parents. You can no longer hide behind your past. You have to choose. And the moment you realize you can choose, you realize you've been choosing all along. Even not choosing was a choice. Even hiding was a choice. And now you have to live with that. This is why your soul feels lost. Because you're being asked to become the author of your own life. And you don't know how to write. Let me tell you something about the self. Kierkegaard said the self is not something you are born with. It's something you must become. But most people never do. Most people live their entire lives as sketches. Outlines. Possibilities that never became real. They follow the script. They do what's expected. And somewhere deep inside they feel it, that quiet grief. The grief of a life unlived. You know this grief. You felt it when you said yes but meant no. When you smiled through something that broke you. When you chose safety over truth. That grief is your soul begging you to stop pretending. There's a particular loneliness that comes with waking up. It's not the loneliness of being alone. It's the loneliness of seeing clearly. You start to notice the games people play, the masks they wear, the lies they tell themselves. And you realize you've been playing too. You've been performing closeness while feeling distant, performing happiness while feeling empty. And the people around you, they love your performance. They need it, because your mask makes them feel safe in theirs. So when you start to take it off, when you start to become honest, they panic. They pull away. They call you different, changed, lost. And maybe you are lost. But for the first time, you're lost in the right direction. Kierkegaard understood this. He wrote about the knight of faith, the person who makes the leap, not into certainty, into trust. The knight of faith doesn't have answers. He has commitment. He chooses himself even when it's terrifying, even when the ground disappears, even when everyone else thinks he's crazy, because he knows something the others don't. He knows that the opposite of despair is not happiness. It's authenticity. It's the courage to be who you are, even if who you are doesn't make sense to anyone else. The knight of faith walks through the world looking ordinary. No one can tell he's made the leap, but inside, everything has changed. He's chosen to trust the movement of his own soul even when reason says it's impossible, even when the evidence says turn back. But here's the part that hurts. Here's the part Kierkegaard didn't sugarcoat. Becoming yourself will cost you everything you're not. Every false friendship, every borrowed dream, every version of you that people fell in love with. You will lose them, and it will feel like death, because it is death. The death of the person you pretended to be, and people will mourn that person. They'll say you've changed. They'll say you've lost your way, and they're right. You have changed. You've stopped being who they needed you to be, and that's the loneliest freedom there is. I want you to imagine something. Imagine you've been living in a house your whole life. It's familiar, it's safe, but the walls are closing in. You can barely breathe, and one day you realize this house was never yours. Someone else built it. Someone else chose the colors, the furniture, the locked doors. And you've been living in it because you didn't know you could leave. So you walk out, and the moment you step outside you feel it. The bigness of the world, the coldness of the air, the absence of walls. And you panic, because out here there's no script, no one telling you where to go. You're free, and freedom feels like falling. This is where you are right now. This is why your soul feels lost. You've left the house, but you haven't built a new one yet. You're standing in the open, exposed, with no map and no instructions. And every part of you wants to run back inside. Back to the comfort of the lie. Back to the safety of not knowing. But you can't. Because now you've seen the sky. Now you know the house was a cage. And you can't unsee that. You can't unknow it. So you stand there shaking, terrified, alive. And this is the beginning of becoming yourself. Kierkegaard talked about anxiety. Not the anxiety of waiting for bad news. The anxiety of possibility itself. The anxiety that comes when you realize your life could be anything. That you could become anyone. That nothing is fixed. Nothing is guaranteed. You are responsible for the shape of your existence. And that responsibility is crushing. Because it means you can't hide anymore. You can't blame circumstances. You can't wait for someone to save you or tell you what to do. The anxiety is the weight of your own freedom pressing down on your chest. And most people, Kierkegaard said, will do anything to escape it. They'll choose conformity. They'll choose numbness. They'll choose the comfort of being told who to be. Because living authentically, living from the inside out, it requires more courage than most people have. But you're still here. You're still reading these words. Which means some part of you refuses to go back to sleep. Some part of you knows that the pain of waking up is better than the numbness of pretending. That's the part Kierkegaard would recognize. That's the part that's capable of the leap. Not because you're special, but because you've finally admitted the truth. You can't keep living the way you've been living. Something has to change. And that something is you. Kierkegaard said the highest form of despair is not knowing you're in despair. It's living unconsciously. It's sleepwalking through your own life. And if you're watching this, if these words ache in a place you can't name, you're not in that despair anymore. You're awake. And yes, it hurts. Yes, you feel lost. But that lostness is sacred. It means you've stopped lying. It means you've stopped pretending you're fine when you're not. It means you're finally, painfully, honest. And honesty, Kierkegaard knew, is the beginning of everything real. There's a story Kierkegaard told about Abraham. God asks Abraham to sacrifice his son Isaac. Everything Abraham loves. Everything that makes his life meaningful. And Abraham says yes. He doesn't argue. He doesn't negotiate. He walks up the mountain with his son. And at the last moment, God stops him. The point isn't the sacrifice. The point is the willingness. The point is that Abraham was ready to give up everything, even the thing he loved most, because something deeper called to him. That's what becoming yourself requires. the willingness to sacrifice who you've been, to let go of the identity you've clung to walk up the mountain even when you don't understand why, even when it feels like madness. You're Abraham right now, standing on that mountain, holding the knife, and the world is watching, horrified, telling you to come down, telling you you've lost your mind. But you haven't lost your mind. You found your soul, and your soul is asking you to let go, to trust, to make the leap even when you can't see where you'll land. This is the moment. This is the terror. This is the birth. So what do you do now? How do you move forward when everything feels uncertain? Kierkegaard would tell you this: you don't move forward by finding answers. You move forward by choosing yourself. Every day, in small ways, you stop saying yes when you mean no. You stop performing for people who only love your mask. You stop waiting for permission to be who you are. And you start building. Not the life someone else wants for you. The life that feels true. Even if it's smaller. Even if it's quieter. Even if no one understands it but you. This won't be easy. There will be nights when you doubt everything. Nights when the loneliness feels unbearable. Nights when you wonder if you made a mistake by waking up. But those nights are part of it. Those nights are the labor of becoming. And on the other side of them there's something waiting. Not happiness. Not certainty. But peace. The peace of knowing you're no longer a stranger to yourself. The peace of living in alignment with the truth of who you are. Kierkegaard called this living subjectively. Living from the inside out. And it's the only life worth living. Your soul feels lost right before you become yourself because becoming requires unbecoming. You have to let go of every false thing you've carried. Every inherited belief. Every fear disguised as practicality. Every version of you that was built to please someone else. And when you let go, there's a moment, a terrible, empty moment, where you don't know who you are. Where nothing feels solid. Where you're just raw presence with no identity. That moment is not the void. That moment is the womb. You're not lost. You're being born. Kierkegaard wrote that the self is a relation that relates to itself. Read that again. The self is not a thing. It's a process, a movement. You are constantly becoming who you are. And the moment you stop, the moment you solidify into a fixed identity, you've already betrayed yourself. Because you are not meant to be static. You are meant to be alive, fluid, responsive, true. And truth changes as you deepen, as you shed the lies, as you come closer to the core of what you actually are beneath all the programming and fear and performance. So stay with it. Stay with the discomfort. Stay with the questions that have no easy answers. Don't run back to the safety of sleep. Don't numb yourself with distractions. Don't let the world convince you that this ache is something to fix. It's not. This ache is your soul remembering what it came here to do. To live. Truly live. Not as an echo of someone else, but as yourself. Messy. Uncertain. Afraid. Real. There's a kind of violence in becoming. A tearing away. A stripping down. And you can't do it gently. You can't ease into authenticity. It demands everything. Your comfort. Your certainty. Your need to be understood. It demands that you stand alone even when standing alone breaks your heart. Kierkegaard knew this. He lived it. He was engaged to a woman he loved and he broke it off. Not because he didn't love her, but because something deeper called him. Something that wouldn't let him rest in the ordinary life everyone expected. He chose his truth over his happiness, and it haunted him for the rest of his life. But he never regretted it, because he knew living authentically means living with the consequences of your choices. Even when those consequences hurt, you will hurt too. You will lose people. You will disappoint them. You will be misunderstood. And you will have to live with that. Not because you're cruel, but because you're finally honest. And honesty disrupts. It disturbs the carefully constructed illusions people live inside. They won't thank you for it. They'll resent you. They'll call you selfish. They'll say you've changed for the worse. And maybe in their eyes you have. But in your own eyes, in the eyes of your soul, you've finally started to live. Kierkegaard once wrote that life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards. You won't understand this moment until much later. Until you look back and see that the moment you felt most lost was the moment you were most found. That the darkness wasn't the end. It was the passage. And you walked through it. Alone. Afraid. But you walked. And that's all becoming ever is. One honest step after another. Into the unknown. Into yourself. Sit with that tonight. Sit with the feeling of being lost. Don't try to fix it. Don't try to make it make sense. Just feel it. Let it move through you. Because somewhere beneath that lostness, there's a knowing. A quiet voice that's been waiting your whole life to be heard. And it's saying, you're not falling apart. You're falling into place. Your own place. Finally.